about suicidal tendencies. Okay. How long have you been experiencing that?
Since I was 10.
Since what?
I was 10 years old.
Since you were 10. Okay. All right. And that makes it a little more challenging because you've been doing it a long time. And so it's become a habit, and that you've heard of Pavlov, okay, and his dogs. And what most people don't realize, there's several things about it. That, I mean, he'd ring the bell, feed them, ring the bell, and he conditioned them, and that's the term, he conditioned them to salivate, but he also had a PICC line in their stomach. They also secreted insulin into their stomach so that they could, you know, metabolize the carbs in it. And so that also happened. And what most don't know is that he did with those dogs, he actually deconditioned them also. And so what he did after he had done that study, he took the same dogs and worked with them, ringing the bell and giving them nothing, ringing the bell and giving them nothing, ringing the bell and giving them nothing, until the point where he'd ring the bell and there was no saliva and no insulin. And so he deconditioned it. And so, and I deal with that a lot in my role in the church. I deal a lot with pornography. You know, the kids are, 100% of the boys are doing it, and at least 50% of the girls are doing it. You know, and it just takes their life away, all right? Plus, it's going to make it difficult down the road to truly be devoted to your family and that, and trying to help them, because they realize this is a bad thing. But if you take a young man and you get him to stop long enough to go out on his mission, he's gone for 2 years, and he doesn't have any problem out there because he thinks, okay, there's no pornography. Now it's even more that he is devoted to something, and something outside of himself, right? He's no longer thinking about himself. He's thinking about the people that he's serving and loving them, right? And so, and then they come back and they were using it. Why were they using it? To change their state. I have a lot of stress. I have a lot of problems. Whatever. Or I might even had, you know, situations where I was abused or something, and I have these bad feelings. So I use it to get out of those feelings and into better feelings, and it works, right? Hey, the power of procreation is powerful, right? And it feels great. Well, trying to help that young man, he comes back and he actually has more problems now because he's done with that, and he's looking at, okay, I need to get myself ready to be a father and a husband and that, and so he's dating, he's going to school, and he's working and all that, and the stresses are much higher, and so he goes back to it. And you know what I explained to him is, you didn't decondition it, you just stopped the behavior. I don't want to focus on the behavior. I want to focus on the reason you're doing it, finding a new way, right? If I use it to change my state, I'm going to find other ways to change my state outside of that, right? So I don't need it anymore. I'm also going to work. Remember when you're on a mission, you were serving other people, and therefore you were forgetting yourself, and you were feeling love towards them, and that was one of the big roles. And so they're in that, because, and I deal with that because so many who are trying to help kids in our church, they call it immediately addiction. You're addicted to porn. I go, stop using the word, right? When you look at an addiction, they've lost their house, they've had a divorce, they don't get to see their kids, they can't hold down a job. That's an addiction, right? Okay, I'm there on that. And I can draw the neural pathways and what happens throughout the process, and that most of these kids are just habits, right? And so when we're dealing with this, I had a patient of mine who was a principal at a very highfalutin high school in California. And all these kids are getting ready to go to Ivy League schools. This is a primo school. You know what the biggest problem he dealt with? Suicide. Here's kids who are getting straight A's. Here's kids who have amazing talents. Why are they choosing that? Thoughts? Ideas?
It's learned.
What's that?
It's learned. I mean, they've learned that's the way of...
That is a way, right? And it's a quick and permanent way out of the problem, whatever the problem is, right? What else? They're fighting for something that they don't even care about, most of them. Why are they going to that school? Because mommy and daddy sent them there. Why are they going to that school, getting ready to go into an Ivy League school? Because daddy's a surgeon. Because mommy's an accountant or a lawyer. And so they're living their parents' life. They don't even know who they are. And so, you know, when you see all of that, and he said, well, I got no answers. And I said, really? Are you serious? And I said, I got some answers. And he said, well, what? I said, I want you to take every one of those kids and put them in a program where they are serving others, right? They're going to learn that there are others who have worse problems. They're going to learn that when they serve, they feel great. They're changing their state, right? And they've got purpose and meaning in their life, right? Their whole life is going by and they're going, oh, I want to be another robot like my mom, and I look at her and she's miserable. That's why she left my dad. Yeah, I want to do that. Give me 5 of those. You know, that's what I said to my dad. I said, he said, you should do this. And I said, no, that's what you do. And I don't should all over myself. I do what I want. And you're miserable. I'm doing the opposite of what you do. I'm going to live until I die. I said, when you get buried, it's going to be a formality. You died 40 years ago. So finding deep inside who you really are, realizing how much you give now that you don't even realize, realizing how much you could be giving. There are those who are waiting for you to touch their life and help them, and in a way that nobody else can. Why? Because of who you are, how you grew and all that. Looking to that and finding that right away, right off the bat. I know, and when I'm saying these things, I'm saying them from experience. I grew up bipolar, and my journey started when I was very young, 3, 4, 5. And my dad asked me, you know, about 10 years before he passed, he said, why do you have to go through this? And I said, I know why. I said, because I cut the path. I know what, I've been there. I've been to places that nobody else has been. I have been on the edge of death. So when I tell somebody, I know where you are, they know I know. I said, I had a patient, a sweet little lady, whose husband brought, and he was just being a jerk. And her son was there too. And yeah, if you just buck up and get tough and have a positive attitude. And I said, that's going to make things way worse. So just shut up. Right? And I said, you have no idea what you're talking about. I said, you have got to understand that she is in a dark hole that she can't get out of. And you have to go down into the hole with her to bring her back.
He does.
Yeah, that's what I see in your husband. That's what I see in you. I see you in the hole with her. And that's the only way. That's the only way it'll work. And that. And so, I want you to see what you're going through as a superpower. That you can help people that nobody else could help. That you're not afraid of the hole. Been there.
Yeah.
Not gonna leave you alone, right? I heard a story that I just love, and it's these two kids that are climbing in Utah, Angel's Landing. I don't know if you've ever been there. It's an amazing place, very scary, and they're fairly experienced young men climbers, but they picked an area they shouldn't have picked. And the two brothers were going up this wall, and the older brother realizes that he's in a position that he can't get out of. And he says, I'm going to help you get up there, and then you can help me. And so he helps his brother up, and he's in a position that he knows he can't be there very long, and he's going to fall. And there's nowhere to go. And he says, go get our parents. He says that so that his brother doesn't have to see him fall. And he's about to let go. His brother grabs his hands, and with way more force than he ever realized his little brother had, pulled him up. And he yelled as he was doing, he says, I will not let go. That's who we are. That's who we are. We are. Did you ever see Hacksaw Ridge?
Yeah, a long time ago.
Yeah. Yeah, I love that. In fact, that's on my whiteboard in my office here, but also in my bishop's office. That phrase is on the top, where in the night he's caught behind enemy lines and he hears the moans. And so he goes and grabs a guy and he takes him and lets him down, and as he's about to go down and he hears the moaning. And he turns and he says a prayer. Lord, help me save just one more. And he did that 100 times that night. Now he got the Congressional Medal of Honor, and they only gave him 75. But you ask anybody who was in their group, he got them all down. There were 100 guys he got down, and there were also some of the Japanese he let down. But he saved that many. But that's the motto. That's the life. And when you see that, all of a sudden there's meaning to your pain. We are the sheepdogs. We are here to save the others. And our pain is about us not being afraid of the bullets. Right? The Navy SEALs, they sit in the surf and they get all this, they master suffering. And they're the ones who run to the bullets. That's who we are. When you see that, it's a completely different life and completely different world. And you may still feel those feelings, but what I want you to see, every time you feel that, I want you to hear, Lord, help me save just one more. And so find something to do at home. Find a cause. And it will be your cause, right? I can't say do this or do that, right? I think it's best for you to find something that combines your talents, you know, who you really are, that's different from everybody else. When you find that, you find what you were tailored to do. I think that is the miracle, you know. So there were times where I read the scriptures a lot. There were times I'd read 3 hours in a day looking for that solace, you know, that get rid of that suffering. But I would get up every morning and go to work. And that was my therapy. I would get up and go. I say, I don't want to get out of bed. I want to stay under the covers, right? I want to hide. And I go, no, they need me. I'm going. They need me. I'm going. You can do that. Can't you?
That's what I've done so far, how I'm still here.
Beautiful. Beautiful.
Now, how did you work my brain? You had me do smell peppermint, stand on one leg, find which brain was, all of my brain was inflamed, every bit of it. And then you had me do crazy things like rub my hand, pull my fingers, snap my fingertips, breathe peppermint, stand on one foot, stand on another foot, and it recalibrated my brain. And I felt happy, which is, how did that happen?
See, a lot of what's going on has to do with parts of your brain that are running low. Remember I said, we talked about depression, you know, that software, the software in your head. But if you've got depressed hardware, how can that software work, right? And then you look at the software and say, I have conditioned that software to feel bad. And so those feelings of, and then maybe even possibly we are slightly addicted to feeling bad. Because feeling good, what do I do with that? I've never done that. I'm scared to do that, right? It's kind of like the worry, you know. What do you mean worry doesn't work? Most of the stuff I worry about never happens. Tell me it doesn't work. I've seen it work, right? Well, no, it doesn't work. But it's focusing on solutions to problems. When I was talking to that basketball player last night that I was working with, a brilliant kid, oh my gosh, and he's the most wholesome, wonderful. His mom is the women's coach at Brigham Young University basketball, and his sister got a scholarship to Oregon to play for the Ducks basketball, and she was so excited about that, and her mom said, no, you're not, you're coming with me, you know. And but just a wonderful, amazing family. But and I say, you never win by trying not to lose. You win by going to win. And so it's what you're doing, not what you're trying to avoid, that makes it work. And so you avoid it by going towards what you want. That makes sense? And you know that internally because you've accomplished things in your life. And so go back to that. I have a journal that I keep. And actually, I've got a couple of them. One, I keep a lot of thoughts and quotes, my favorite quotes. I love Mark Twain. You know, he's one of my favorites. But I also have a journal that I keep that keeps a hold of things that I've accomplished. I've got this long list of things I'm really proud of, Eagle Scout, and I picked pineapples for a summer in Hawaii that was really hard, you know, and that. And so I've got all of that, and I can look to it. Whenever I'm feeling down, I call it my cookie jar, right? And I go get some cookies, right? Hey, look, I did that. This is hard, yeah, but look at all this hard stuff I did, and I did it. I mastered it. But then I've also got what I call the jar of suck. And that's the stuff that was so freakishly hard that I suffered through and struggled through. And maybe I did a bunch of failure in there to get through it, but it was horrible. And so I go to the jar of suck too. And I say, okay, well, I could handle that. I could handle 10 years of 4 hours of sleep a night with a wife and eventually 4 kids going through graduate school to get a degree. If I can do that, I can do just about anything.
Yeah.
And so I make that list of things that you're proud of, the cookie jar, but make a list, the jar of suck.
Okay.
The things that you've been through, and you made it, right? I struggled it through. That's one of the things about the SEALs that's amazing. They all have in common Hell Week. That's 100 hours of 2 to 3 hours of sleep a night, or 2 to 3 hours of sleep total, right? And they are running, they're carrying logs, they're carrying boats, they're going into the surf, they're laying in surf, they are hypothermic, they're sandy and wet, and for that 100 hours. And they asked, one of the guys I read said, you ask why 100 hours? He said, because we don't want to go beyond that. Because the ones that are still standing will die. They will kill. They will go through whatever will kill them to be. And we already know. Okay, that's what we want. We don't want you dead.
Yeah.
We want that though. And so, and that's what they're looking for. The one that will just keep on going and keep on going no matter what.
Wow.
You got fractures of your tibias, and you've got them duct taped up, and you're still running down the beach, hobbling down the beach, and say, that's the guy I want. Because when it really gets going, if he's alive, my carcass is coming home.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
That makes sense?
Mm-hmm. Yes. Thank you.
And then I think the other thing, when I was a kid, I was fat. I'm back there. I found out I was an athlete, but I was horribly uncoordinated, and I played basketball in junior high, and I had asthma, and I get sick a lot. But I just kept going. I was really persistent, and I was always the last guy picked on the team, and I was just excited to be on the team. And at the end of the day, we'd always run this long run, and it seemed like forever. It probably was 2 blocks, right? But for me, with asthma, it nearly killed me. I ran out there, and my friends that I talk to now, they go, we thought you were going to die. Because it was, and when I get to the end, I was already seeing kind of pixelated, everything was black and white, and everything that was going, and I would always puke my guts up. And I remember thinking, what a wimp. You are such a wimp. And about 20 years later, I thought, why was I thinking that? I was the only one that was willing to push that hard. Yeah, athletically, I sucked compared to everybody else. But the determination was way more than they were having to go through. Not that they couldn't, but they didn't have to, right? I guess I was a little tougher than I thought. So, but we're that kind of people, right? And that toughness is going to allow us to be around when the bullets are flying, when the people are suffering in that, and being able to say, I'm here, I'm not going anywhere, right? Things are bad, but I ain't going.
Very good.
I want you to do some writing on that.
Okay.
And come up with your own personal creed of who you really are and why you're here. What's the meaning? That's a big part of my life. I do things and I go, what does this mean? And that's not a negative thing. I want to do things that mean something.
Right.
And so find that meaning for everything. Mm-hmm. That's part of why I think it's easy to leave. doesn't mean anything.
I'm very project oriented. I always
Good.
have to have a project. And I serve my community. I'm a Main Street Guyman girl, and
Good.
yeah. So if I don't have a project, that's when all hell breaks loose. Because the second I'm idle, I can't be idle for 2 days.
Yeah.
And then I better find a project. And it's always service. I have a service.
Good.
Yes, and a
Perfect.
strong church background, but problems with organized religion. You know, the usual of, well, I decided to open my own church. You know.
Very good.
So yes, I agree with everything that you're saying, and I do that.
Yeah.
And so I'll make a new journal.
Yeah, and find that meaning, you know, and that. And one of the keys that I've found too, I'm much like that I'm very project oriented, and I have to, as I'm getting closer to the end, already just start a little bit on the next one,
Yes.
so that there's no lag time, because I'll let it, and I do not do well. Right? It was this or crime.
I think that's called workaholic.
Yeah. Yeah. It was terms of the probation. All right. That